Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. So the news today is we're looking back at a year of AXIE Infinity. So the turn of the year is when many projects, not just blockchain game projects, obviously look back at what they've done in the previous year. AXIE Infinity, a game I've actually not played too much of it actually recently, but I have played it. And it's definitely one that I keep my eye on because there's lots of interesting stuff going on there, even if it isn't necessarily the biggest game in terms of numbers. But there have been actually behind the scenes some pretty substantial changes going on with that, and that's something that is reflected in their kind of year roundup. So let's go and have a look, see what they're saying. Okay, so we see here. This is very blockchain. So the first thing we see is increased AXIE market liquidity. So as someone who looks at the blockchain game sector, this is something that I am very interested in. So what does market liquidity mean? Liquidity just means you can buy and sell an asset without moving the price of the asset. So if I own AXIEs, which I do, I'm pretty interested in the fact that I can trade them. May not mean that I'm making money necessarily, may be mean that I'm losing money, but what's interesting is I have an asset that can be bought and sold. It's not something that I can I try and sell my AXIE and it takes like 6 months for someone to turn up. So market liquidity is pretty important. One of the interesting things about AXIE Infinity is it has a fairly small community. It always talks about it. It has the friendliest community of blockchain gamers. And that kind of small community, who a lot of them know each other, actually helps with things like liquidity, because they know what's valuable, what's not. They're also very helpful to new people in the community. This is kind of good. Second point, we brought in new members to the community. Again, I would say, yeah, not the biggest blockchain game that's out there. Probably a couple of thousand players, probably about 300 DAUs sort of thing. But I guess with AXIE Infinity, what they're kind of setting themselves up for is kind of building the foundation at which when the game gets to a certain point, because like a lot of blockchain games, it's very fluid, very much in an evolutionary stage. When they get to a stage they're happy with in terms of the feature set, then they can maybe kind of start spending marketing money and go at a much kind of broader mass market. That's not where AXIE Infinity is at the moment, and really not where the majority of blockchain games are, to be totally fair. Okay, a few other things. So they've launched their alpha community. They've visually done a visual upgrade. They've got this the Christmas event marketplace upgrade. So this is quite fairly big news for them. I've not played this yet. They have what they call a community alpha launch. So this is if you have 3 AXIEs, you can go and play this kind of new kind of alpha version of the game. You do have to sign up actually. But what's interesting, going back to liquidity, is the cheapest AXIE, the floor for any AXIE has doubled from 0.004 ETH to 0.08 ETH. I mean, this is still not particularly, these things are not particularly valuable. So what's that? That's I can't even do the maths on that. It's embarrassing. So it's about $1. So I think the cheapest ETH now, the AXIE now, is about $1. Obviously, some of them are much more expensive, thousands of dollars, but that is quite significant if you're doubling your the lowest price. The market volume has been up 300% since they've launched this. So obviously, launching this community alpha has increased activity in the game, including buying and selling AXIEs. And in fact, 16% of all AXIEs in the market have been bought. So this is the reason that this the cheapest AXIEs for sale has gone up, is because there's been much more demand. So suddenly 16% of all AXIEs have been bought. So we're seeing a kind of big increase in this liquidity. So that's good to see. Okay. They also mentioned their engagement and retentions are far higher than mainstream games. Well, yeah, that's because they have a very small audience. I mean, that can cut both ways. Anyway, a few testimonials. We'll skip through over that. So, yeah, say alpha is open to anyone with 3 AXIEs. You can buy AXIE if you don't know AXIE Infinity. It's a game running on Ethereum blockchain, so you need MetaMask or Dapper or one of those kind of wallets. And you can buy 3 AXIEs, which we worked out will cost you $3, and you can go and play the game. Okay, what else is going on with AXIE Infinity? So importantly, they are kind of building out a wider, I guess we could say, ecosystem, at least partnerships. So they did some stuff with MakerDAO, the people behind the DAI stablecoin. MakerDAO, pretty interesting company. increasingly interested in how they can kind of talk to the game community and have some of these kind of DeFi, decentralized finance features in games. And AXIE is probably one where they would be testing those sort of things out. Already happening, but that's probably another video. Samsung. So Samsung in 2019 kind of announced they had blockchain elements in their S10 phones. Looks like Samsung is kind of interested, like lots of South Korean companies are, in blockchain. It's not gone full headlong into it, but I guess they're a good company to be talking to. Clayton is a blockchain out of South Korea from the people behind Kakao, which is a mobile messenger service. It is its own separate blockchain, a bit like Libra to some degree, but for kind of more specifically for running dApps. So we'll see how that goes in 2020. Loom Network is what we call a layer 2 solution. So that kind of works in conjunction with blockchains like Ethereum and provides kind of scaling, so it makes things a bit faster. You don't have to pay transaction fees and that sort of thing. So that's the kind of makes AXIE a bit more playable and easier to onboard. And then they also raised $1.5 million, which is pretty good. So there we go. AXIE Infinity 2020. So what are they planning to do? 3 primary goals. Start attracting mainstream users. So this will be interesting as someone who really focuses on the data around blockchain games. I'm really interested to see the numbers of people playing these games increase. At the moment, very, very small, even for the biggest blockchain games. Probably talking about maybe 5,000 people kind of maximum. We've seen a few peaks over that, but not really sustained. So it'd be interesting. Certainly if AXIE went from 500 DAUs to 1,000 DAUs, that would be pretty substantial. Even greater stake within the AXIE ecosystem for our beloved community through a native token. So native tokens, I'm not a big fan of. So this means that AXIE Infinity will come out with its own currency, effectively, its own cryptocurrency. That will be based on Ethereum, be what we call an ERC20 token. That's just the standard that these tokens have to abide by. Effectively, there will be an AXIE Infinity money. That is very valuable if you can get it to work. The vast majority of projects haven't got that to work. So that's the interesting thing about a native token. Native tokens are very good at capturing value, but you have to have a lot of value in your system for that to really make sense. So we'll see how that works. That's pretty ambitious. And third goal is solidifying AXIE's position as a top-facing blockchain application, which is kind of like the same thing, I guess, as number one in a to some degree. So they want to kind of keep what they've got, which is their strong community focus, and build on that. So these two kind of link together. The third one, I think, is a bit of what we might call a stretch goal. Anyway, definitely worth checking out AXIE Infinity. It's one of the better looking blockchain games. Like a lot of blockchain games, it is kind of fairly simple. So it came out really of CryptoKitties, so it has a strong breeding element. So you can breed your AXIEs to create new AXIEs. You can create teams of 3 AXIEs that fight each other, and then the next stage really that they're doing as part of this community alpha is having this kind of permanent land, persistent land that you can then own and do other things with, and you kind of see the game gaining more features and becoming to a degree like an MMO, a persistent world in which things happen, and there is a history in the game. Obviously that works very well with blockchain. So definitely keeping our eye on AXIE Infinity this year. And thanks for watching the video. If you have any comments on AXIE Infinity, please stick them in the comments box. I'd like to hear that. And thanks for watching Blockchain Gaming Daily. So this is us talking about the blockchain game news that's happening every day. Very busy, vibrant industry sector. So if you're interested in blockchain games, please do subscribe to the channel so you get all the news. But thanks for watching this one, and hope to see you again soon.